The air conditioning was too cold. I remember that. The kind of cold that makes your forearms prickle, even through long sleeves. I was sitting at a corner table in Giovanni's, the Italian place on 10th Street, waiting for my wife to arrive from her sister's house. The scent of garlic and roasted tomatoes hung thick in the room. My water glass left a wet ring on the white tablecloth. I heard the door chime. I looked up. Catherine walked in wearing the navy dress I'd complimented that morning. Our eyes met for half a second. Then she looked straight through me, turned to the hostess, said something I couldn't hear. The hostess gestured toward the bar area. Catherine followed without a single glance back. My hand stayed flat on the table. I didn't wave. I didn't call out. My pulse didn't quicken. It settled. Like something inside me had been waiting for exactly this. The waiter appeared at my elbow and asked if I was ready to order. I told him I was still waiting for someone. He nodded and walked away. I checked the time. 7:14 p.m. Catherine had no idea what she just set in motion. My name is Daniel Mitchell. I'm 52 years old. For 19 years, I've been married to Catherine, a woman I met at a mutual friend's barbecue when we were both in our early 30s. I work in compliance for a regional bank, the kind of job that doesn't generate cocktail party interest, but pays the mortgage and keeps the lights on. Our marriage had been described by friends as solid, dependable. The word Catherine used most often was comfortable. I used to think that was a compliment. We had routines. Friday nights were hers, book club or dinner with her sister. Saturday mornings I handled the grocery run. Sunday evenings we watched whatever crime drama she picked. Small decisions became hers by default. Where we ate, which car we bought, what color to paint the guest room. I told myself it didn't matter. Compromise was marriage. But there were moments. The time I suggested we take a weekend trip to the mountains, and she laughed, said we weren't mountain people, then booked a spa weekend with her friends the following month. The evening I mentioned feeling overextended at work, and she nodded without looking up from her phone. The morning I brought home the wrong brand of coffee, and she sighed like I'd forgotten our anniversary. I let it go. I let a lot go. I told myself that was what steady men did. It started 3 weeks earlier. Catherine's sister Emma was getting remarried, and the family had planned an engagement dinner at Giovanni's. Catherine told me about it on a Tuesday night while folding laundry. She said it casually, the way you mentioned needing milk. Emma's dinner is the 23rd, 7 o'clock, Giovanni's. I asked if she wanted me to make a reservation for us. She paused mid-fold, a towel suspended in her hands. Then she said, "Actually, Daniel, I think it's better if I go alone this time. Family only. You understand." I looked at her. I'd been to every family event for 19 years. Birthdays, graduations, her father's funeral. I asked what had changed. She smoothed the towel with both palms and said, "Emma's been through a lot. She needs the focus on her, not on us, not on explanations." I asked what needed explaining. She didn't answer, just placed the towel in the basket and carried it upstairs. That night I lay awake listening to her breathe. The ceiling fan turned slow circles above us. Something about the word explanations sat wrong in my chest. 2 days before the dinner, I was reviewing account reconciliations at my desk when my phone buzzed. A text from Catherine's number. Except it wasn't meant for me. It was a screenshot she'd accidentally forwarded. A group text with her sister and 2 friends. Emma had written, "Is Daniel coming Saturday?" Catherine's response was there in gray text. "God, no. I told him family only. I can't deal with him hovering. He makes everything awkward. Plus, everyone will ask why I'm still with him. Easier if he's just not there." Another friend had replied with a laughing emoji. My screen went dark. I set the phone face down. My throat felt raw, like I'd swallowed something sharp. But I didn't call her. I didn't text back. I opened my calendar and did something I hadn't done in 19 years. I made a reservation at Giovanni's for 1. Same night, same time. The day of the dinner, Catherine spent 2 hours getting ready. She came downstairs in that navy dress, hair pinned up, makeup precise. She looked beautiful. She always did. She asked how she looked. I told her she looked perfect. She smiled, checked her phone and said, "I'll probably be late, don't wait up." She kissed my cheek. Her perfume was something new. I asked if she wanted me to drive her. She said Emma was picking her up. I watched her walk to the end of the driveway. A car I didn't recognize pulled up. She got in without looking back. I waited 10 minutes. Then I put on a clean shirt, grabbed my keys, and drove to Giovanni's. I arrived early, requested the corner table with a clear view of the entrance and the private dining area in the back. The hostess seated me. I ordered water. At 7:12, Catherine walked through the door. I watched her scan the room. Her eyes touched mine. For one full second, we looked directly at each other. Then her face went smooth, blank, like I was wallpaper. She turned to the hostess, said something, and was led toward the back room where I could see Emma and 6 other people already seated. She walked past my table, close enough that I could smell that new perfume. She didn't hesitate, didn't stumble. The waiter appeared. Young guy, maybe mid-20s, name tag said Marco. He asked if I was ready to order. I said I was waiting for my wife. He glanced toward the back room, then back at me. Something shifted in his expression. He said, "Take your time, sir," and walked away. I sat there for 20 minutes. I didn't look at my phone. I didn't fidget. I watched the door to the private dining room, heard laughter, heard glasses clinking. At 7:34, Catherine emerged, heading toward the restroom. She walked right past me again, eyes forward. I took a slow breath. That was the moment something inside me went quiet. Not broken, just quiet. I left the restaurant at 7:40, drove home in silence. The house felt larger than usual. I went upstairs to the office, opened my laptop, and did what I should have done months ago. I logged into our joint accounts, reviewed the statements going back 6 months. There were charges I didn't recognize. A hotel in the city, twice. Dinner reservations for 2 at places we'd never been together. A payment to a boutique I'd never heard of, same day as one of those hotel charges. I took screenshots, saved them in a folder labeled Reconciliation. Then I opened my personal email and typed a message to an attorney a colleague had recommended 2 years ago when his own marriage dissolved. I kept it brief. Need to schedule a consultation. Prefer this week if possible. I hit send. It was 9:47 p.m. I didn't feel angry. I felt focused. Catherine came home just after 11. I was in bed, light off, facing the wall. She moved quietly through the room, shower running, closet door opening and closing. She slipped into bed and said softly, "You still awake?" I didn't answer. She sighed and rolled over. Within 10 minutes, her breathing evened out. I stared at the dark wall and counted the ways I'd let silence become permission. The attorney's name was Lauren Hirsch. We met Thursday morning at her office, a converted brownstone downtown with wood floors and tall windows. She was younger than I expected, maybe early 40s, with reading glasses on a chain and a yellow legal pad already filled with notes. I walked her through the marriage, the restaurant, the text message, the financials. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and said, "Do you want to save this marriage, or do you want to protect yourself?" I looked at her. The question was so direct it felt like cold water. I said I wanted clarity. She nodded, said clarity required documentation. She handed me a checklist: bank statements, tax returns, property deeds, insurance policies, credit card records, retirement accounts. She said, "Anything you think she might hide, secure it now," quietly. I asked how long this would take. She said, "Depends on whether she cooperates or escalates. Based on what you've told me, prepare for escalation." That night, Catherine asked where I'd been that morning. I told her I had a doctor's appointment. She didn't ask what kind, just nodded and went back to her phone. The next morning, I transferred half of our joint savings into a new account in my name only. Our bank sent an automatic alert. At 2:18 p.m., my phone buzzed. "Catherine, what the hell did you do to our account?" I didn't respond. At 2:31, another text. Daniel, answer me. At 3:05. This is financial abuse. I'm calling my lawyer. I took screenshots of all three messages, forwarded them to Lauren. Her response came back in under a minute. Good, let her call. Discovery works both ways. Over the next 2 weeks, the temperature dropped. Catherine stopped speaking to me unless absolutely necessary. She started staying at Emma's twice a week. I used those nights to go through the house methodically, found receipts tucked into coat pockets, a second cell phone in her gym bag, password protected. I didn't try to open it, just photographed it, noted the carrier, the model. Lauren told me that was enough. The bank alerts kept coming, transfer blocked, card declined, shared credit limit reduced. Each one triggered a flurry of texts from Catherine. I didn't answer any of them. Silence wasn't surrender, it was strategy. On a Wednesday evening, Catherine's mother called. I answered. She didn't bother with pleasantries. Catherine says you've lost your mind, that you're trying to control her, freeze her out financially. I asked her if Catherine had mentioned the hotel charges. The silence on the other end stretched long. Then she said, "Marriages go through rough patches, Daniel. You don't abandon someone over a rough patch." I said, "I agree, but I'm not the one who walked past her husband in a restaurant and pretended he didn't exist." I heard her inhale sharply. Then the line went dead. 10 minutes later, Emma called. I let it go to voicemail. She didn't leave one. Lauren scheduled mediation for the following Thursday. Neutral location. A conference room on the third floor of a legal plaza. Gray carpet, glass table, 2 mediators. Catherine arrived with her attorney, a man named Richard something, late 50s, expensive suit, the kind of lawyer who talks in semicolons. Catherine wouldn't look at me. Sat on the opposite side of the table, arms crossed. The mediator opened with standard language about cooperation and good faith. Richard interrupted. "My client has been subjected to financial coercion and emotional manipulation. Mr. Mitchell has unilaterally restricted access to marital assets without cause or warning." Lauren slid a folder across the table. "Would you like to address the 4 hotel stays, or should we start with the unaccounted $15,000 in withdrawals from the secondary account your client opened without disclosure?" The room went still. Catherine's face flushed. Richard opened the folder. Flipped through printouts, bank statements, receipts, timestamps. His jaw tightened. He looked at Catherine. She whispered something I couldn't hear. He closed the folder and said, "We'll need a recess." They stepped out. Lauren and I stayed seated. She poured herself water from the pitcher on the table and said, "She's going to come back with either full denial or a sympathy play. Be ready." I asked what she thought it would be. She said, "Both." When they returned, Catherine's eyes were red. She sat down and looked directly at me for the first time in weeks. "Daniel, I made mistakes, I know that, but I never wanted to hurt you. I was confused. I felt invisible. You stopped seeing me." Her voice cracked. Richard placed a hand on her arm. I didn't move. I said, "You told your sister and your friends that I made everything awkward, that you couldn't deal with me hovering. You walked past me in a restaurant and pretended I didn't exist. You didn't feel invisible, Catherine. You wanted me to be." She blinked. Tears spilled over. She said, "I never meant it like that." I reached into my own folder, pulled out a single printed page, placed it in the center of the table. It was the text thread, the one she'd accidentally sent me, with her response highlighted. "God, no. I told him family only. I can't deal with him hovering. He makes everything awkward." I said, "You didn't just mean it. You wrote it. You laughed about it. You coordinated it." Richard started to object. I held up one hand, looked only at Catherine. "I didn't break anything. I stopped pretending." Then I stood, nodded to Lauren, and walked out. The divorce finalized 8 weeks later. No fault. Equitable distribution. Catherine kept the house. I took the retirement accounts and my sanity. She tried to call twice during that period. I didn't answer. Her attorney sent a letter requesting a post-dissolution meeting to clear the air. Lauren replied with a single sentence. My client declines. The day the papers were signed, I drove to a hardware store and bought new locks for the apartment I'd rented across town. 1 bedroom, hardwood floors, a kitchen window that faced east. I installed the locks myself, tested them twice. Then I sat on the floor with my back against the wall and drank a beer in complete silence. The light coming through the window was soft, golden. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt unburdened. 3 months after everything was final, I ran into Emma at a grocery store. She was in the produce section, examining avocados. She saw me and froze. I nodded and kept walking. She followed. Caught up to me near the dairy aisle. "Daniel, wait." I stopped. She looked older, tired. She said, "Catherine's not doing well. She's selling the house, moving in with our mom." I didn't ask why. Emma kept talking. "She says she didn't realize what she had, that she took you for granted. She wants to apologize, properly." I looked at her. This woman who'd been at our wedding, who'd called me family for 19 years, who'd laughed at a text mocking me. I said, "Tell her I hope she finds what she's looking for, but she won't find it with me." Emma's eyes filled. She nodded. I walked away. My cart had yogurt and bread and coffee. The ordinary things. They felt like enough. Now I live in that apartment with the east-facing window. I wake up to light instead of arguments. I drink my coffee in silence that feels like peace, not strategy. I don't wonder if I'm hovering. I don't calculate whether my presence is awkward. Some mornings I think about that moment in the restaurant, the cold air, the garlic smell, the way Catherine's eyes slid past me like I was a stranger. I should have seen it sooner, the dismissals, the erosion. But I also know this: silence isn't surrender. Sometimes it's preparation. Sometimes walking away without shouting is the loudest thing you can do. If you had been in my place, would you have confronted her in the restaurant that night? Or would you have let it play out the way I did? Tell me in the comments where you're listening from. Your presence means more than you know. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe. Let's keep walking this road together.